Good evening and welcome along to another episode of Not Another Rangers podcast. The rain in Spain falls mainly with athletic tears as the Spaniards failed to capitalise after Robin made a proper arse of it. Liam Kelly channels prime Alan McGregor to make a vital penalty stop, justifying the selection of his manager. But will the return to domestic football see the appearance of Rangers Mr Jekyll or Mr Hyde? Aberdeen is allegedly the land where men are men and sheep are incredibly nervous. So will we see a B team squad head north for Sunday, with the Dons fans hoping for a chance to sing "Oh Barry, Barry" at Pittodrie's high noon kickoff? Joining me on this Augusta Masters weekend is the famous four ball of myself, Ricky, Scott and Gary. Scott, how are we, mate?
I'm no bad, Davey. I like the intro there, Barry. You had to just come up with that one for this weekend.
Gary, how's yourself getting on, mate? You were a wee bit under the weather in the last week. Are you back to full fitness?
No, but Davey had a virus for the last 3 weeks. It'll just no go away. I think I'm getting near to middle age and it doesn't actually suit me. I'm up at the back of the broom. See, when the time I made it up there last night, I was wheezing my way for the next 10 minutes or so outside. So I'm just sneezing, coughing, spitting. Ribs are done in, but I hopefully getting there.
And Ricky, I don't know if it's a filter, but there's a good bit of colour about you, mate, because I heard you were on that Pepto-Bismol and Imodium earlier on in the week as well.
No, it wasn't that, mate. I had an allergic reaction. I looked like Connor Barron's dad for a week, mate. My head was all swollen. I had the puppy dog eyes. It was absolutely brutal. But honestly, Kerr, that host chair is absolutely jinxed, man. Every time you get a host for that, they end up getting sick and ill. And Gary's got COVID now. Just make sure we've got like a third substitute just in case both of them drop dead, mate.
Cheers, Ricky.
So, well, Ricky, I'll come to you first since you've been off for a wee while, and we'll just touch on last night. Your overall thoughts on the performance, because I think we were up against it early on with the sending off a proper, but we came through it. I think many on social media have described it as a battling performance. Is that how you saw it yourself?
Yeah, no, it was a total team performance, mate, that was badly needed. Ferguson said he was going to make some big calls. 6 changes to the lineup. I was a little bit, very disappointed to see Dessers starting. I think he must have something on Barry Ferguson, because how he keeps getting the start, I'll never know. But speaking about the performance, it was a very heroic effort from the guys. We were speaking before we came on air, like these referees are just ruining these matches, sending offs after 10 minutes. We'll debate it later whether it was or it wasn't, but from the actual team performance, it was a very battling performance after that. Shades Ufa at the end with 9 men, very, very courageous. I think Ferguson was quite funny. He said at half-time, I'm not bothered about possession, I'm not bothered about anything, guys, just 2 banks of 4. Dessers up front, let's just don't concede, because he was thinking about if we can stay in this tie 0-0. Our last time we went to Spain, we won over in Spain against Betis. Nobody expects it. I'm starting to see people a little bit too confident for next week. I just wish some fans would just calm it down. Let's go over there as the underdog, because I think we've got a great chance in a one-off match. I think if Ferguson approaches it like he did Parkhead, that we can beat them and we can go through if we surprise this team. But it's not going to be easy. They've got a great stadium, great support, very passionate support. So it's going to be fascinating next week. But well done to the players. Kept us in the tie. That's all we wanted after last night at Ibrox. What if anyone can work out why our team is so bad in Scotland and so good in Europe, then please write it on a postcard, because you'll probably get the manager's job for next season, mate.
Gary, if I could come to you, obviously you can give us the perspective from being at the match, but for me, is it credit to Barry Ferguson for getting it tactically right, and not only tactically right in the sense that we got a positive result, but a positive result in the face of adversity, because I think that was a test of the coaching staff given the early red card, and did they come through that with probably the best possible outcome off the back of that?
I think probably all I said before the game, that a 0-0 draw or a draw against the team that's the favourites for the tournament, that would have been a good result. You know, let's be honest, I was quite happy if we went in there and if the game was a 0-0 before the game started and sent us up the road. I took that. I think it's quite interesting there that, you know, if there's something bad happening there, something safe. everyone's safe. I thought it was interesting that if his formation, the first 10 minutes, obviously had to change it as the game went on. But he started off with a 5-2-3, which was really attacking. He went with Hadji, Cerny, and Dessers quite high up. And obviously circumstances changed after 10 minutes, but I think he went for it in terms of formation. It's hard to know when you go down to 10 men and you're going to two banks of four, and when it's a totally different game, and it's then damn his limitations. You're just trying to keep that shape. So it's hard to give him credit for his tactics or where to draw the line at that, or where it says to do with actual workmanlike grit, stamina, all sort of stuff that the team done. So, but he got a result, which is the thing that matters in Europe.
And Gary, if I can just stay with you, there was a couple of surprises, obviously, in the team selection, and me and Ross done a pod earlier in the week, and we were debating what sort of formation that we would go with and who would play in the sort of key positions. Obviously, Redvan started before Yefte, and I think in terms of that call, I think Ferguson got that right. But what surprised me most, and I think Paul touched on it in the comments just a wee bit earlier, was the sort of grit performance of Yanis Hadji in a defensive sort of shape. I've never seen Yanis Hadji go into tackles and win the ball as cleanly as he did, cover his fullback as often as he did last night. In terms of him almost looking like a six at times last night, it really surprised me. What's your take on that, Gary?
No, he was excellent. I mean, other than the fact for some reason we thought he was the best header in the ball in the park, we aimed every single goal kick out that way, which was a bit bizarre. I've never seen him header a ball. But defensively, his work rate was phenomenal. He tracked back. He covered for Redvan, who had an excellent game for as Redvan only ever does now and again. But his general, he didn't get involved creatively a lot. He wasn't able to, obviously, as down at the ball. But as soon as we went down to 10 men, he was all over the pitch and covered that one. And let's be honest, we all know tackling is not his strong point. He's never going to be the greatest tackler in the world. But he was in the right positions. He was covering the space. He was tracking back. Probably and I don't know, I've seen it on the game, but in the way that Cerny probably doesn't do, really. Cerny covers a wee bit of space, not a lot of space, which makes it sometimes more difficult. But Hadji certainly gave Redvan that cover that's been lacking probably at times in certain games.
No, absolutely. And Gary mentions the red card. So what's your take on it? I think by the letter of the law, and in European football, that is obviously going to be taken by VAR as a red card. If that was in the domestic league and it was for us, I'd be looking for it. So do you agree with ultimately the final decision there? Then Proper should have went. And can I just ask on that as well, can we also talk about Proper in his Rangers career? If I can get you to elaborate on that, because I feel he's flattered to deceive. He's come in with the reputation of being a captain in the Dutch league, had almost 8-9 years of being the captain, his previous club, and it's just no work to it. He doesn't seem to be the right profile of player that we're looking for, certainly no for domestic football. But last night was a European game, and again, before Butland took him out in Fenerbahce, I felt he was struggling away in Turkey as well. What's your take overall on Proper? I think you're on mute, buddy.
Sorry, that's because Ali was barking away there. And I think nowadays with the way football's going, with a lot of the games, which I don't agree with, to be honest with you, because I'm in my 50s, I prefer old school football, but it's a red card. I'll sit and argue and say he was going to away for goal. I didn't think it was that bad a tackle. It was a yellow card for me, but obviously the rules have changed, so he has to go nowadays. On Proper himself, I think the problem with Proper is he's not getting any pace. We've not got any pace as a team, but Proper's not getting any pace at all. And when you're playing at a back line, because you're going to struggle. I think Davey was that probably comfortable in the Dutch league. He was there, you see he's been there, he's 31, he's been there for that long. He knew the game, he knew he was up against most of the time, he's played a certain way. And to come away for that at that age, it's going to always be very difficult to adjust. And I think coming to Rangers the way we are just now, he's not got a big dominant centre-half next to him. It can coach him through games. I know he's 31, but do you know what I mean? Can coach him through domestic games. He struggles with people up against him physically and strength-wise and also pace-wise. And I think he just never really settled. Some games he did okay, but you're probably right when you say they flatter to deceive. I just think he probably wanted to make a move at some point to another league. he's took the gamble, and I don't think it's worked out for him. And I do think probably in the summer he'll be maybe back in the Dutch league. And fair play to him for trying it, but he just doesn't suit the way we play. We don't suit the way he plays.
No, I think that's fair comment. Ricky, if I can bring it to you, obviously we started off with a back three or back five, if you like, but three centre halves. And Dujon Sterling was one of them. And I was doing my research today, and since Dujon Sterling has been at Rangers, the most consecutive number of appearances that he's made in a row is actually 11. And that was from October the 27th, 24 to Dundee on the 21st of December 2024. So no all of them he started, but all of them appeared in. So if he's been here two and a half years, and he's only made a consecutive run of 12 appearances, and the fact that he's consistently getting injured, despite the fact that when he's in the team, I think it's fair to say he improves the team no matter where he plays, is it a worry in terms of the fact that he's a good bit younger than Leon Balogun, but like Balogun, he just doesn't have that reliability factor?
Yeah, I don't know. Did you see the challenge where he got injured? I saw it I saw it last night, and it was he was just jumping for a header, and it was like it's like he's made of glass. Like he just jumping, and his Achilles just completely snapped. So, and the hard thing for Sterling is normally when a player gets injured so much, it's like the same sort of injuries, but he just seems to have the worst luck he can. I don't know if Chelsea had a genie or someone that could predict the future, because the amount of different injuries. I mean, that one he got at Hibs with his shin, this one is Achilles, and they're big, difficult injuries. That Achilles injury is a nasty, nasty injury to come back from. Like, that is a brutal rehab. He's going for an operation on Monday, so that's going to be a painful. I don't know how long. I don't think you'll see him for 6 months. But Davey, this, like, it doesn't matter even if we win the Europa League, mate. This squad needs absolutely a blowtorch taken to it. It needs started again. You've got John Souttar, you've got Yilmaz, you've got Danilo, you've got Sterling. You've got all these players are exactly the same. They're brilliant players if you could give them a run in the team. If Sterling could play 20, 30 games, that's why Tav, like, remember at the start of the season when Tav was going to be rested every 3 days and he was going to be coming in and out the team? The guy has to play all the time because these players are so unreliable, and that's not, you can't challenge for a title if you don't have a squad of players that are available for most of the season. And we've got too many players in the squad, as good of players as they are, because the players I've just all mentioned. Yilmaz, I think, he can play so bad, but last night he was good again, and I think if you gave him a run, we say he could be a decent left back. But the problem is, we know what will happen. He'll play for 5-6 games, and he'll get injured, and he'll be out for 4 months. So this is something that whoever comes in, the director of football, they need to take a look at this, and I'm sure they will. I think these guys that are coming in are very, very analytic. Everything is going to be graphs and how many minutes and stuff like that. So I think over the next few years you will see things changing, but it is a real worry, and it's such a shame for these players because they're really good players, but that we can't rely on them. And any player we can't rely on, even Dessers, we'll have to play Dessers all the time because Danilo, we can't rely on Danilo. We'll love Danilo, we want him to give him a chance. Digamani, we want to give a chance, but these guys we can't rely on. They keep getting injured, and it's the same story and this is the way this squad has been for the last 3 seasons, mate.
Gary, whilst we're on Sterling, we might as well talk about the penalty incident. I assume you being in the stadium, there was a lot of confusion in regards to the fact that they scored, and I think people that had a good eye view from in the stadium questioned the possibility of offside. The minute that there's a delay when a goal, you generally think it's about to be chalked off. But the fact when the ref went to the screen, were you aware of what was going on? And now, having seen it back, what do you take on it? Do you think in modern day football it is a penalty, or do you think it's harsh?
So at the game, I had no clue, right? So generally no clue. When the ball comes over the top, and very quickly the ball's in the back of the net, so you're assuming it's fine. Then all of a sudden the game seems to take a long delay, and I think Raskin and the referee are talking to each other. It's going on and on and on. Scott's sister, Lindsay, sits right behind me, so I was talking to her. So they'll get relayed back to them. There's an offside somewhere in it. but they're potentially looking at a penalty, and then you start to think, well, if you're offside, where's the penalty going to come from? I'm not grasping where this is at. And then obviously, when as soon as he goes to the monitor, you're well aware that obviously the offside, you don't go. Offside is a factual decision, so it can't be that. So it must be something else. And you know what? When you go to the monitor, you're always just assuming that they're going to come back and give the outcome in it. So you're then worked out there must be something that's happened. I watched it on my phone a couple of times. I still struggle to see what's in it. Do you know, in terms of a penalty? I don't think in England they even consider it to be a penalty nowadays because they've chucked VAR altogether. In Scotland, it's maybe hard to tell. Depends on the referee that week. But in Europe, it's not. It's common. They give bizarre handballs. You know, we've seen it week in, week out. So, do I think it's a penalty? No. But do you understand in the Europa League why they give it? That's the way. That's the way they referee these games.
And well, it's a fair point that you make in terms of you don't know whether it would be given domestically or not. But if we talk about the Michael Stewart term in terms of biomechanics, when Sterling goes to make the move towards the player as the ball comes over the top, the extension of the arm is for him to sort of gather momentum and pace to backtrack. So could it not be argued that that is a natural body movement? Therefore, he doesn't know where the ball's going to end up. And the fact that it hits, I think it touches maybe his fingernails or whatever part of his body that it does, but it's very faint. Obviously, Tav said post-match that the referee had told him it was a deliberate handball. It really isn't a deliberate handball.
Yeah, no, definitely. But in Europe, it doesn't matter. Do you know the mechanics of your arms and where they go? It doesn't matter. I remember, was it last year? PSG, was it PSG Newcastle? I can't remember the game. But basically, the guy hits the ball in the air and it hits off his hand and down its side and they give a penalty. I think at the game, you know, it's funny because obviously we're in Scott sit, we're at the room right above it. I never thought there was anything at the time. It didn't look like anything. There was no visible movement of the ball that looked like it was going to be a penalty or anything like that. Arguably, Sterling could have defended a bit better and been sharper in the first place and not get himself caught in that position. But that happens. But there didn't look to be anything obvious in it. Having seen it back a few times, it's faintest of touches. You could quite arguably have got away with it. But again, I've watched so many European games, I'm not surprised.
No, I think that's a fair comment, Gary. And Kerr, if we go to the penalty incident itself, obviously Liam Kelly makes the save. And I think it's fair to say that was a big call from Barry Ferguson last night, starting him in goals. Me and Ross debated it at length earlier on in the week, but Ferguson has come out and said himself in his pressers that he left it to Wednesday before making his decision. I think Liam Kelly's all-round performance last night was assured. He sort of calm and collected for high balls. He made a couple of good saves towards the last 5 minutes of the first half. And again, the penalty save was a really good save, not just to save it, but to make sure it goes clear and behind and it's not spilling the opportunity of a potential rebound. So on the basis of that decision for Barry Ferguson, do you think then that the gloves are his for the rest of the season going forward?
I think it depends, Davey. I think, obviously, I don't know who Barry sees as number one. I still think it could be Butland. I know he's got a really good relationship with Jack. He said himself he's on him since he was a kid at Birmingham. And I think everybody can see Butland has qualities as a goalkeeper. He just makes quite a few mistakes. And so does Liam Kelly. To be fair, he's done that with Motherwell in the past. If he come in and put every week for us, he'll make one or two mistakes. Keepers make mistakes, and it gets very much highlighted, especially at Rangers. But to win last night, I think a lot of pressure was on Liam Kelly last night. I think because of the situation he came in at, a European match, Jack Butland's been dropped, so people are thinking, oh, is he going to make a mistake? And I thought he was really assured last night. I thought he was very confident. His distribution was good. His kicking was good. Some of the saves he pulled off. He didn't have a lot of work to do. I thought he'd have had more, but I think the sending off changed our tactics. They kind of changed theirs. But I think what he had to do, he was comfortable in the penalty save. Listen, he dives, but he keeps himself back. He spreads his body and his legs, and that's why he saves it. He doesn't dive with his legs down. He dives his legs up. And credit to him. I mean, he came in last night and he could have just evaporated and thought, nah, I'm probably going to be dropped again or vice versa. But he'd done really well. And credit to Jack Butland, came out after it straight away and shook his hand and said to him, well done. I mean, that's class. But Butland's got a lot to prove, Davey, still. He's on a lot of money. I know that's not the main point here, but he's come up to us with a big reputation. So he has, because but I think the problem with Jack is he's very self-conscious about the way he plays. If he makes one or two mistakes, it gets to him far too easily, even at his age now. Because I think he's still in the bracket, and this Jack Butland's got a really good goalkeeper. And people are thinking about the potential he had when he was a kid. He's in his 30s, and he's never had a real long time running for somebody's first team. Because he makes one or two errors, and then he leaves the first team. And he doesn't really reappear again until he maybe goes somewhere else. You can see his quality when he first came in the first 6 months, he was phenomenal. But after a couple of mistakes, he's never regained that. He regains it in a certain amount of games, and he makes another couple of mistakes, and it's like he's back to the bottom again. So I don't know if he has to maybe take time out to maybe just refresh himself, but it's all, I think between the end of the season, it's up to the manager, it's up to Barry Ferguson who he goes with. Personally, I would probably go with Kelly because he played really well last night. Do you put him against Aberdeen, or do you keep him for next week? I don't really know, but I would stick with him just now and say to Jack, have a couple of weeks off, step away for the game and see how you just train and see how you go for that. But that's up to the manager.
Ricky Kerr makes a good point there in terms of that he would just stick with him. But where do we go for here? Because if Liam Kelly plays on Sunday and then makes a mistake, then it starts that question again. So do you think that Ferguson has to make a decision internally, and that he's started Kelly last night, we just go with Kelly between the end of the season? Because we're looking for a wee bit of cohesion in the team and building relationships. And if you drop somebody every time they make a mistake, then you're starting from scratch almost every game. And I don't think in a European quarter-final we can afford to do that, can we?
Yeah, but Butland's made 20 mistakes, mate. So it's like, and I get what you're saying about Kelly, and one mistake, no, but if it's not just like a goalkeeper's a goalkeeper, it's not just about mistakes, it's about their actual form, right? Kelly, we'll look at our defensive record over the last 6 weeks, and Butland is a massive. It's the goals he's conceding is the first goal in the game by a mistake. Dundee, Hibs. That goal that we were comfortable in the match against Hibs, and Ferguson knows with this team, we're a fragile bunch, an absolute fragile bunch in our dressing room. So if our goalkeeper, it doesn't matter if it's Kelly or Butland, if he's chucking in a goal when it's straight at him every single match and you're starting the game 1-0, I don't give a shit if Butland's a good guy and Ferguson used to play cards with him at Birmingham. None of that, all the crap I've heard today. Stevie Clifford says he's on 40 grand a week. If he's on 40 grand a week, then what are we playing at, honestly? Okay, I get into next season, we can't keep Butland as a number two if he's on 40k a week. I completely get that. But we can't afford to keep Butland in the goal. It's not just the goals that he's conceding. Every time he gets the ball passed back to him, he kicks it out the park. Like Kelly's kicking was assured yesterday. Kelly's kicking has always been one of his strongest points. And Kelly was coming for crosses last night. He was demanding. He made some great saves. He played it down after the match and says I wasn't that busy. The penalty save was absolutely massive. So hopefully that gives him confidence and he can take the team forward, because the defence needs that. We don't have a settled defence. We don't have a number one goalkeeper. We don't have a dominating centre half. Suter's the most dominating centre half we have, and he's like 50-50. He's a really amazing siege defender, but when it comes to your bread and butter games, he can lose concentration a little bit and be out of position. So is he the answer? Our fullbacks are ropey as anything. So the whole thing is a little bit disjointed. So, but going back to your point, for me, with players, you can't pick players just because of their names. Like Rice came into the team last night and was absolutely fantastic. Keep him in the team. Like, okay, he's got a neck injury, but if he's fit for Aberdeen, forget about, okay, this player has to play because this is his name. Bajrami has to play, Haji has to play, this player has to play. Like Ferguson says, you should be earning that jersey. 6 changes last night. Let's see what they can do at Pataudry, and that's the way it should be for Ferguson, and that's what I hope. He's not going to be the manager next season. We all know that now. But I hope that we can see that players actually deserve and want that jersey, and we can see that as supporters until the end of the season.
Gary, Ricky's brought up an interesting point I was going to come to later in the show, but I'll hit you with it just now. He mentioned Rice, and I would like your opinion on Bailey Rice's performance last night. Can he thrown in at the deep end? And for a young guy, 18-year-old, I don't think he put a foot wrong last night. I thought, as Ricky said, it was quite an assured performance. And I think when you've got a natural left-sided player there, when Diamande was missing, it helped our balance in midfield, especially when we had the two banks of four. But added with that, Ricky says, if he's fit, play him again on Sunday. If we just touch on Sunday as well, do you think that we should rest all our key men that we think will start next Thursday for Sunday? Or because it's Aberdeen and we've got that sort of rivalry, do you think we shouldn't disrespect our opponent? So it's a kind of double-edged question there, but if you can remember it all, Gary, and try your best to find your way through it.
Right. So in terms of Sunday, I don't care about it. Right? I'm not interested in the game of Sunday at the end of the day. It's irrelevant. It means nothing. If Aberdeen beat us, could we play the reserve team? What's it going to matter? Right? To me, the important game is next Thursday. So I would be playing guys like Bajrami and Danilo and guys that haven't been featured in NCL make as many changes as you possibly can, keep as many guys fresh as you possibly can, and focus on the game next Sunday. Now, the difference, I'd probably play Kelly still, because I think the more match rhythm he gets, the better. Because I think that's logical. Balogun, I wouldn't be playing because he's obviously his legs go every couple of weeks anyway. And other than that, you try and make as many changes as you can. In terms of Rice, again, it was pretty horrible last night at the game. I don't know. I mean, obviously the TV doesn't show much; it moves away. It was quite worrying watching it because it was 6 minutes. He's down. The way the players were round about him, it was quite. You thought it was much more severe than it actually was.
He's okay, Gary.
Aye, I've seen that now,
Ferguson said today that he's fine. It was his neck. I think he had a bad one on the back of the neck, but he was in the training ground today, and he reckons he might be fit for Pataudry. So
it's funny because at the game, and I don't know what they were saying on TV, but I assumed it was a concussion sub, just because of the way he was down for that long. But I'm assuming that wasn't the case, given the fact Sterling had to do it 9 men. So it was kind of hard to judge what the issue was, but certainly at the time it looked quite scary the way they were flocking to get them on, the physios, etc. In terms of his performance, do you know what I liked about him? And I think Ferguson's talked about his way off in terms of development, and it seems to suggest his way off in terms of, I think, the tracking back, the cover, and the running, all the stuff that's out with it, the technical skills he's got. But last night he was covering space. He's big, he's physical, he's strong, he can pass a ball. And with all due respect to Barron, who's done well at Rangers, I thought you seen a marked difference when he came on. And I know what one I'd rather have starting of the two, which isn't a criticism necessarily of Barron, but he looked a far more composed and a sure player.
No, I think that's fair to say. Connor Barron's use of the ball, I can just think maybe the last sort of 3-4 minutes of injury time when we were peppering round about the edge of their box and it was going from left to right, and he picked the ball just up on the edge of the D, and he should have just done a wee dink pass, and instead he shelled it out for a goal kick. So that's still fresh in my memory in terms of Connor Barron. And I think the best bit about Barron's game is that he can retrieve the ball, but when he's got the ball and he's got too much time on the ball, I think he struggles, Care. Would you go along with that? And is he given that in terms of the type of game that it's probably going to be on Sunday? Is maybe Barron an ideal candidate to start on Sunday for that reason?
I'd probably start Barron, yeah. I think you'll get a bit of abuse, but I think he can handle that. Listen, Connor Barron's the type of player you need if you are going to be up against it. Like, down to 10 men last night was ideal for him, because he comes on, he upsets opposition, he gets into position, he'll tackle and win the ball back. His distribution isn't great, whereas Bailey Rice, he's a different type of player. Bailey's more he's technically a better footballer, but when he passes the ball, he doesn't just pass it, he fizzes it into people's feet. But what I liked about him last night when he had it, he was looking to go forward with the ball. He was looking to pass forward. He wasn't going sideways or backways, because we had to, even with 10 men, he was still looking to find out ball going forward. And that's what I like about him. And he does put in leg crunching tackles and stuff like that, because that's not his game. But he's one of these guys in my part can find space. His awareness is really good. He uses the ball really well. He's always putting his head up. He's thinking where he's going to go with the ball next. He's just a very intelligent football player for a young guy, and I think he needs a lot more games under his belt. I'm just sorry we've not seen him enough this season, but I would rest him on Sunday. I think he's too important for his next weeks. I think they're a good team. They're a difficult, especially at home, they're a good side. But I think Bailey Rice is the type of player wanting somebody really technically aware against players like that over there, because they're technically good. I think last night we went down to 10 men. It kind of helped us against them. They didn't know what to do after that, because they wanted us to come out because they knew the pace with the brothers on the wings and the big boy up front, but it never really materialised because we were sitting with 2 banks of 4 at times, probably a 5 and a 4. So it didn't help them. But if we were coming out with the line team, maybe Cerny and Dessers and Hadji coming up, and then maybe Raskin coming up, they wanted that so they could hit us more, but it didn't happen. So I think next week I would still play Belarus, but I know Dio's fit, and I would play Belarus over Diamandi. I'm not Diamandi's biggest fan. He's too inconsistent for me. He does well in Europe, but he's too slight. He's not got enough strength for me. He does pirouettes, which is everybody seems to love, but then he loses it. But I just think he needs to have a cut up eyes, Davey. I think he needs some strength on him. Do you know what I mean? I'm not the biggest guy either, but I think to play, especially in Scotland, he's a bit of strength about. I don't see where Diamandi's got that, but I think in Europe he looks a far, far better player. It's like we've signed 2 different people, but I would still play Belarus. I think Barry Ferguson done really well last night at calling him into the team because I think it was for left field. Nobody really expected it for a while, and we've been shouting him, and they'll come on, done it against Queen's Park, and throw him under the bus. But I think he showed you last night against a team who are better than anybody we played this season, how good they can be. And I think if they went off the park last night injured, to me, he was probably man of the match. I thought he was really good, Belarus. But I would start him in the Thursday again.
Now, Gary, I'm going to come to you in a second here because I saw you shaking your head, so we'll get you off that fence you've been sitting on for the last few months. But just before I touch on that, I noticed, Kerr, that when you were talking about pies, that you mentioned my name there, so that's a yellow card, mate. But Gary, see if we talk about...
I didn't mean that.
I'm only having fun, mate. I'm only having fun. Gary, see if we talk about Kerr's point in regards to Diomande, I take it you're not having that at all.
No, in terms of Europe, no. Diamandi is very exceptional in European games. No, I think we all recognise that Ibrox in the European games, he looks like a player and he's got a bit more space and he can move the ball about. In away games, it gets lost. There's no doubt on that. But then so is the whole team at times. So there's an argument it's maybe with the wrong players around about him. So I think in the games I've watched in Europe this season, the away games, he's been instrumental in most of the good performances. I don't think he's been exceptional all season, but in those games, I'll be glad to see him back next Thursday. I think he can win a difference makers next week.
No, I think that's a fair point. Now, Ricky, I've saved this one for you because I think you're going to give the most controversial opinion on this. So
yes, Dessers.
Well, absolutely, mate. You knew where I was going with this. Now, I'm watching that game yesterday, and especially 5 minutes into the second half, I'm crying out, we need somebody to hold the ball up, take 3 or 4 touches, take it in an area of the pitch where 2 or 3 of their defenders can go and follow you. Now, every time we hit him last night, it didn't stick and it just bounced off him. And I think when you're under the cosh, you can't afford that. Now, I would rather Igaman, because he is our, the guy that we're investing in for our future and will potentially give you the biggest outlay. I said last week, I think we're depreciating his value when we don't start him. And I get Desser's goal return has been decent. But see, if we look at the sample size in the last 4 games, I think Dessers has been really, really poor. And his contribution, all-round contribution, has been poor and got worse every game. So is now the time to take him out? And would you play Igaman on Sunday with a view of him starting on Thursday?
Mate, he's lucky I don't live in the UK, because if I had a white van, I'd kidnap him and leave him in a shed somewhere. That's how much I don't want Dessers to be playing for Rangers, mate. I detest watching Rangers when he's our number 9 up front, and I'll be honest with you, mate. I don't know what it is with Ferguson. I know he had that amazing purple patch, and there is a chance that he is going to score the winner next week. I would love to bring him off the bench, 10 minutes to go, because he is that sort of striker that will get you the goal and get you into the next round. If we keep it 0-0, I've got no problem with him coming off the bench 80 minutes if it goes to extra time, 100%, because for me, Dessers, I don't know how you manage to get that, consistency, to get that good striker that is inside him, because the seesaw effect from the good striker to the absolute pish striker, it's just too much to handle, mate. It's too much for the ticker. I think my allergic reaction, now that I think about it, was to Dessers. I'm sure that's why I came out in hives and I looked like Connor Barnes' dad for a week, mate. It was definitely Dessers that did to me. So I'll need to remember that when I go to the clinic and get checked back in Cyprus. 100%, mate. But honestly, I cannot handle. We've got a chance to get into the semi-final in Europe, and I know Ferguson. He'll probably play him on Sunday and Thursday. That's how much Cyril Dessers must be threatening Barry Ferguson with something, because why he keeps picking on me, absolutely loves him. How he can get chosen after the last 3-4 matches and Butland gets dropped. He was deserved to be dropped, but Dessers should have been dropped as well. And if we've got a chance, I think our best chance is Igaman up front. And I totally agree with Gary, because Diamande works really well with Igaman, you know. The good thing about Igaman is he holds the ball up really well, so he can play. When he plays the little through balls to Dessers, he's either offside, he trips over the ball, or he shoots either over the bar or hits the goalkeeper or hits it wide. Whereas before, when we got our good results in Europe, Igaman's holding the ball up. Diamande is making the runs, he's finding them, and some of the goals we scored was absolutely excellent. So please, Mr. Ferguson, go back to that next week, because I don't want to come out in an allergic reaction again. I can't handle any more Dessers.
Gary, if Ricky's putting the case forward for the prosecution, and I'm saying that you're going to be Donald Finlay, KC, in the case
Right in here, right in for this, David. Right in. I can guarantee you that Dessers will start next Thursday night. For a number of reasons. One of them is the style of play that we are wanting to adopt next week. Dessers' strength is the ball over the top or running into channels and running down the sides, and that ball from Tav or Cerny, whoever it is. What he does, and I'm not saying he played well last night, because he didn't. See, I think me and Scott were talking at half time. By the time the game had got to that point, he was coming back to the halfway line, he was trying to pick up the ball, he was doing the things that he's not good at, which is that layoffs. Sorry. But what he is good at is that kind of running down the side of players. Now, he misses a lot of chances, we both know. But in European games, when we're playing against teams like that, he will actually be used, is that with Cerny beside him, with Hadji beside him, Diamande, whoever it may be, and play that way. Igaman's issue clearly for Ferguson is he doesn't put in the work rate. Do you know, he's kind of he's alluded to that umpteen times. Dessers' work rate, no matter how bad he plays, is always there. And the style of play that we want to play, particularly the way European games will work for him. I don't think he's been playing excellent the last couple of weeks. I don't think he will. He goes through hot and cold patches, we both know. But he suits the way that Rangers want to play in these particular games.
Can I just ask you then, Gary, if you're saying that he's best with the ball over the top and running through the channels, if we're looking to retain the ball, if we're kicking it long, if we're saying that we're going to kick it long and play back to the wall in Bilbao, which I suspect we might play, and it's a strong part of Liam Kelly's game is his distribution, would Dessers not be a better option for the bench when they begin to tire, and then look to exploit and start with Agamani and look to retain the ball? Because I think if we're chasing the game, Dessers is a better option for the bench than Agamani is, you know?
No, I get what you're saying. I think there's a couple of strands. I think one of the issues is that Ferguson likes Dessers' work rate. He will work the pitch, work the channels. To be fair, he didn't have a good game last night, but he went off there knackered at the end. You can criticise him as much as people want, but he ran his heart out. And I think Igaman doesn't do that. Igaman's more natural and does a whole lot of other things. But I don't think it works as well for the team, and that's the issue. We've got arguably Danilo, if he is a player that he was meant to have been, and nobody knows what type of player he is right now because we've not seen him play for months, would be the alternative option. Somebody that can hold the ball in, somebody that's more technically wiser, somebody that's able to play with Cerny and all the stuff that goes with it. But there doesn't seem to be that demand from Ferguson that he's one of his go-to guys. So I think on that, Dessers has experience, he has the know-how, he probably has that edge over Igaman. I do see your point though, because the last 20 minutes of a game, it can make a difference. But I just think probably they want to stay in the game the first 70 minutes and probably would rather do it that way. We'll look at it next week.
No, absolutely. And Kerr, both gentlemen make compelling arguments. So if that is the prosecution and the defence, if you're the jury that's deciding, what you going with?
Choose wisely, Scott. Choose wisely.
All she is, David. Barry Ferguson will die in the Dessers Hall. He will.
Yep.
He'll die in the Dessers Hall. And I think when we're relying on something like Cyril Dessers as our main man, then we know as a football team we're struggling. He'll get you goals. You can't nobody will say he's got stats look good. He's decent, but we need better. And I'm not saying Danilo or Agamani, but you say I agree with you about Agamani. I think you have to play him because he's a guy we're counting on for poor trading model. We've invested money in him. I know we invested money in Dessers, but Dessers came to us when he was a journeyman. Dessers has been a journeyman most of his career. He scored a good amount of goals, to be fair to him, but he is a journeyman. And to me, when he'll be here next season, but next week, I do agree with Gary. Next week, I think Ferguson will start him because, like I said, he'll die in the Dessers hill. That's who he likes. And see, that's about, he runs about, what way? That's a minimum requirement for footballers. That doesn't come into me. When you go to watch any football player, they all should be running about. I know he says that about Agamani, but Salah doesn't run about daft. But Salah's got an end product. Agamani's not got that at the moment. Do you know what I mean? Cerny doesn't run about daft, but he's got an end product. Dessers run about daft because he is daft. Dessers, to me, last night should have stayed in the halfway line, especially when they're down to 10 men, and don't come back once. Because when the ball was coming back out, I was going straight back. At least if he's in the halfway line, he's putting pressure on the back three Bilbao had or chasing it down, but it was too deep at times. And that should have been the instruction for the bench. Maybe not for him, but the bench, I told him, get a bit more up the park. He wasn't great last night, but he wasn't bad either. He was trying, but we all know he's not got a great first touch. At times, he can't hold the ball, he can't really roll defenders, but then he was unlucky with that shot. He tried to turn around the corner, so there's bits of his game you really appreciate, and there's other bits of his game that frustrate you, but that's what you're going to get because that type of player is. But like I said, hopefully he's not here next season, and it's no offence to him because I think, as everybody says, he's a really nice guy. I just think as a football club, we need more quality, but he will start next Thursday for me.
Now, Ricky, see, before we do a deep dive on Sunday and I get everybody's thoughts on what they think the lineup and the scores will be, etc., and your thoughts on Aberdeen, what I want to touch on is the Barry Ferguson obviously didn't do a press conference today, but he done a 6-minute interview with Luke Shanley for Sky Sports. I'm sure it's on X if anybody wants to go and see it. But one of the things he mentioned was that he was guilty of asking players last night to play through the pain barrier, and he's maybe asked them to do him a favour last night. Now, Ferguson was renowned for doing that himself in his playing days. Do you think one of those guys has been Cerny? Because I look at him on Saturday against Hibs, he was really poor, and last night I felt he offered us very little. I was really disappointed in his use of the ball and his work rate, and to me, that was because he didn't look fit. So I'm guessing that he'll definitely be rested for Sunday, but is it a concern to you that he isn't looking fit at the moment?
It's probably, you've got to remember though, he's not played, that's the reason he's at Rangers, he's not played that much football the last few seasons. When he was at Wolfsburg, he said it himself, he was struggling in the middle of the season, you know. He said in the middle of the season he was tired, and Comont was giving him all the excuses. Comont was like giving him a massage and stroking his ego, going, "Oh, you're tired, Cerny. Okay, you have a rest. You have a rest." Whereas Ferguson's not like that. Ferguson's, "Okay, you're tired. Here's an injection. What one do you want?" You know. So it's a complete different standard of manager. But it's the time of the season where, listen, can you how as a footballer can you be tired for a European quarter final when you're like playing in front of the whole world? Like his agent says that he wants to get to a top 5 league in Europe. So like Ferguson says, I'm not being cheeky, he's had plenty of days to rest, and we've not been playing that many games the last few months. We've actually, because the players did really well and getting to that top whatever it was in the Europa League to get to qualify and miss out that round, then that gave them a lot of rest. The players had a full week to prepare before they played Hibs. Okay, he had a couple of weeks off after the break when he was away with the Czech Republic team. So these guys, they shouldn't be tired this time of the season. They should be desperate to get on that park. If you're a footballer, Ibrox last night, the place is crackling, you know. I mean, I said the decision completely ruins the match, and it drives me crazy at Spar and refereeing the game and stuff like that. But as a footballer, that adrenaline, imagine coming out of that tunnel and hearing that noise, man. There's no way any player should be tired on that park. That should be. I remember Goldson and all that when we played Celtic in the semi-final, and you've all probably done sport yourself where you feel a bit stiff and you feel a bit tired, but once you start running and get the legs moving, you feel brand new, and you forget about all that. It just disappears. So I'm sure it's the same for footballer. But listen, I wouldn't be playing I definitely wouldn't be playing Cerny on Sunday against Aberdeen. I fear that this is the problem a little bit with Ferguson. I think he's going to go too strong on Sunday because he's like. You're on about that interview with Luke Shanley today, and he didn't seem like he was there when he was going to rest players. Okay, he was like, look, I'm taking this game serious. We need these points on the board. I don't know what he needs points on the board for because we're going to be second. But he was saying that whoever's fit, I'm taking to Aberdeen. So we're all saying what we would do, and I'm sure we're going to speak about it for the next 15 minutes. But I can tell you now, that's not what Barry Ferguson's going to do. That team will be a surprise to us. On Tab will start for sure. Suter will start. There'll be players that shouldn't start on Sunday that will start because he won't want to go up there and get turned over from the sheep. No way.
Just before we start talking about Sunday in depth, can I get you to round it off, Gary, in terms of Cerny? If you had the money there available, given what you've seen so far, regardless of the fee, if it was anything between 5.5 and the reputed maybe 7.5 to 8 million, are you spending it on him on the basis of what you have seen this season, given the fact that potentially there's not going to be a sale on value there?
Not every player should have a sell-on value. Do you know this whole and supposed to talk about another podcast. I was listening to one with Adam Thornton during the week, and he was talking about I think it was Tactics Talk one, and then the excellent Heart and Hand one, and he was talking about you buy a good player young, not because I buy him young so I can sell him on. I'm buying him young so he can do well, and then what happens from that is there's a sell on. I think we've too often tried to be focused this player trade and saying we need to buy young players and try and hopefully sell them if all goes well. You need a squad of players that have some have got experience, some have got been there, done it around the block in terms of ability, and some are developing. The Cerny has been there's obviously Player of the Year nominations were out this week, weren't they? I think, and Cerny's one of those up for Player of the Year, and has probably been our best player. I think he was carrying an injury from the last international break, wasn't he? I think it was something he was out with there. But even in his game, anyway, he's a moment's player. Do you know that's the way he is? I mean, he looks rubbish most games, and he does things. That's the way his game's been all season, and he has that level of ability whereby that none of our other players have. Hence, he's probably athletic. Marked him 2 or 3 players on him every time he got the ball because he does have that natural thing that he can do with other players. So I think for me, if you could buy him for 5-6 million, if that's one of the 20 million pound we've got to spend or whatever it may be in the year, I think he has a level of ability we've not seen at the right flank for many, many years.
Oh, I hit the wrong button there. I switched my camera. I do apologise. A bit like Dougie Vipon there. Sorry, I do apologise. See if we take it care to Sunday. Now, I just on my wee sketch pad there have looked at the players in the team that maybe need minutes before Thursday and the guys on the periphery. So I'm going 4-3-3. So I've wrote down Kelly, Tav, Suter, Inciala, Yefte, Barron and Diamande with Bajrami in front, McCausland and Danilo off Igamani. Do you think that'll be round about where we'll be on Sunday? I think you're on mute again, mate.
I would like to think so, but I think you'll probably play a few players who played on Thursday. I think he'll still want to play guys through it, and I think that's the type of manager Barry is. He doesn't like to make too many changes unless he really, really has to. And let's not hope he rests most of the players like Cerny needs a rest. Dessers should be rested as well, I think. Balogun has to be rested because he was walking very slowly when he came off the park. Sterling's missing, so we'll have to be careful at centre-back position. I know Suter's coming back, but do you want to risk him against Aberdeen? I just throw him back in for Thursday. Do you know what I mean? It's difficult because
on that point, can we can't go up there with a white flag. We take a large travelling support. They beat us the last time there's up. There's a bit of needle in the game as always. I know we're saying Thursday's a priority for us, but from a Rangers point of view, you're never waving the white flag going up to Aberdeen, are you?
You're on the Davy, but I think sometimes you have to look at the circumstances. We're going to finish second. We've still got Fernandez here. We've still got Inciala, as James said. They need game time. Why are they here in the first place? And I think whatever team Rangers put out should always be enough to beat Aberdeen. I don't think Aberdeen are great. They had a good start this season, but they've tailed off. They've had a couple of wins here and there, but I know the team that made them out to be. I know we certainly aren't, but I know that they know either. And I think a half-decent Rangers team should still get up there and winning. at worst getting a draw. But that's not been the case when we're away with field teams recently. So I think Europe is more important, especially for this season. I think next Thursday, if we get beat, people are going to stop going to home games because it's nothing else to play for. So I think next Thursday it has to be all the eggs in one basket because it's a big, massive game we can't afford to go into with an injury just because we want to be Aberdeen. And I mean, Aberdeen's, everybody says it's a rivalry. It's more a rivalry for Aberdeen than it is for us. I'm not being a big thing Aberdeen. I just don't like them. But it doesn't mean it's a rival. I just don't like Aberdeen because they're still living in Alex Ferguson era. And that's how long ago was that? That's where they're still living. But I think if you put a half decent team, and you named a few players there who will be playing like Rami, and I don't even know what happened to Tom Lawrence. I don't know where he is. He came on, scored against Dundee, and then we'll see him since. I don't know what's happened to him. Fernandez, Inciala. I mean, you've also got Finlay Curtis you could put on the side, McLeod, there's bodies there. Do you know what way Kelly should play for me? That should be enough to go up to Aberdeen, drink so. If that's not enough, then you're thinking to yourself, why are these guys in the squad in the first place?
Ricky, do you take Kerr's point? And
100%. But I think the way even Ferguson spoke. Remember the last time we went to Aberdeen, they won the league. Remember with the pyro and everything. The stadium was on fire and it was madness the last time we went up there. Hopefully it'll be a bit quieter this time and they realise they're not going to win the league. But no, I definitely. But the thing is, I agree. Me personally, I would be. I agree with Gary. I don't care. Like, obviously, you still want Rangers to win. We're going to watch it, but I would actually enjoy seeing a team like Inciala. I think he was way harshly treated when you were speaking earlier on about a few mistakes. What do you do with players? I think he was very harshly treated because he was playing really well. And then he had a few errors and he had a few bad games. And then it's obvious that his confidence dipped. But hopefully he's got confidence now. Players like Finlay Curtis. Fernandez, we've got to see this guy. He was brought in on loan. We've never seen the guy, man. For God's sake, he might actually be decent. Just because the staunch Avengers are not liking what they're seeing in training with these guys. But come on, we want to see these guys and see what they can do. And there's no need. We're done in Scotland. Their season's over. We handed them a treble months and months ago. So for us, our main focus and the only way, and it's annoying Celtic. I don't know if you've noticed that they're actually going to win the league, and their fans are raging because we're still in Europe. I saw them going on about the Billy boys in 82 minutes and everything, sending messages. They're absolutely obsessed with Rangers. So the best thing we can do is don't take any risks. There's players I wouldn't even be making travel to Aberdeen. I would be telling them, stay with your family, just be a professional, eat well over the weekend, and let these guys take a squad of 19 players, a bit less, 17 players up to Aberdeen. Let's see these players because I want to see McCausland. We've not seen him this season. I think he's another one. I don't think he's good enough for Rangers, but I want to see what these Cortez, for God's sake, man. You know, how are you supposed to
Who's
judge
that,
these
Ricky?
guys? Exactly, mate. With 4 million. 4 million. We'll probably Fernandez. We're probably paying 4 million for him as well, man. They're the players for next season that will have to be here because we've got them on 4-year deals. So let's see what these guys can do. You know.
Gary, obviously, if I come to you because earlier on in the podcast, you were saying that you don't really care about Sunday. I think that's fair in terms of a general consensus. I think you just scroll through social media and most Rangers fans are talking that way. But given our league form of late, and it's not been great at home and away from home throughout the season, we've struggled at times, although we've had better results away from home recently. Would it be a concern that going into the split, if we weren't to lose for Toxic on Sunday, the impact that might have is 15 or 13 points too big a gap for Hibs to close between now and the end of the split?
Well, I think second's guaranteed, so I'm not concerned about the position that we're going to finish. I think, I was being a bit facetious earlier on. Nobody ever wants to see Rangers lose, but I think it's about priorities. We've got a group of players that haven't played much. Fernandez will not play because nobody knows where he is, so there's no point even counting him. But there is a group of players that are sitting there, be that McCausland, Bajrami, Cortez, and Danilo. There's a full different front four straight away. that haven't been playing that should be played. So we are, and they're all at a level whereby they should still be able to beat Aberdeen. You've got Proper, who's sent off, so you'd imagine he'll play on Sunday. You've got NCL, you're saying, Tav will play because he plays every week. You're not going to go out with a weak team, but you're not going to go out with anywhere near the team you're going to play the following Thursday. I suppose that's my issue. It's just making sure that we don't take any risks. Arguably, shouldn't play Tav. Should stick McCausland or somebody else out there just to get, because with Sterling being out, you have no other right back. But that won't happen. We know that won't be the case. So I expect us to go with a pretty strong team, but hopefully what he does is he goes with the players that are almost certainly not going to start on the Thursday night, as many of them as he possibly can.
Davey, does that know that I thought they're bringing in a rule where you could get your game postponed before a European game? Is that no start until this?
No,
Next
it's no
season,
start.
but it's only in a specific week, so it's only before the third.
So on a Celtic week, is it?
Exactly, mate. Exactly. There's no, you get that idea right out your head. There's absolutely no. They tried to bring this game forward to Tuesday night before the Thursday.
What I thought was interesting, I don't know if it would make. Obviously, it would depend on who's playing. Round about the fixture time when it's the Scottish Cup break, but it's the Scottish Cup semi-finals, the last weekend before the split. I would need to look at that in the fixture list, but that would be potentially the only free week. But then that marries up with the games, and I'm pretty sure that the teams that we are playing are involved in that. So I don't think that there is any, scope for a spare week to shove that game in. But Kerr, if I give you the final word on something that I wanted to touch on, was that Andrew Kavanagh was at the game last night again. And obviously there's been a lot of speculation because things go quiet. You get the conspiracy theories on social media for the other side of the city telling us what's happened with our club before we know what's happening with it. But he's been to 6 games now. He's never really spoke to the media. But you wouldn't be at 6 games if you weren't sort of ensuring that things were about to get over the line. Is that a fair comment?
It's fair that these guys don't come out and speak to me. They're just because they're interested in buying a business. It's not the kind of things these guys do. I mean, unless you're a big, massive Rangers fan that we never really knew about, I don't know why we're there. I think we're there because it's the takeover's going to happen, or the fakeover, as Celtic fans keep calling it, because they say it's not happening. But I think it's going to happen, David, but I'm not going to tell us every single day this is happening, this is happening. Like we've signed this bit of paper yesterday, so then what are we going to sign that next bit of paper? I think when that happens, we'll know. I mean, at the start of the season, when we first heard that it was going to be August or something, wasn't it? July or August. Now I'm saying it might be quicker than that. Nobody really knows, but all I know is, well, I don't know. All I think is it will happen. It will happen. Unless we don't know what's going to happen once it does happen. We don't know. Are they going to be rags to riches? We don't know any of this stuff, but all I know is they wouldn't be at games and constantly involved and going to, you've been meeting away games, haven't they? So they wouldn't be doing stuff like that if it's not going to happen. So it's good to see them there, and it's good to see they're interested in the club. It's good to see other stuff. Other fans in Scotland, the media in Scotland, and let's say Celtic fans in general are talking about it constantly. Why are they talking about it so much? Is it fear? Or
yes.
Are they just hoping it doesn't happen so they can start to come out with different stuff again? I mean, if that was me and that was somebody else, I wouldn't be that interested because it's not my club. I'll let them deal with their own stuff because that's their club, their emotions, all the other things. If it's Rangers and it's different, you want to talk about it, but I might be interested if it's somebody else, Davey, but maybe that's just coming from me. I don't know about you guys, but if it was Celtic, I wouldn't give a rat's ass.
But Davey, the worrying thing is they keep going to the games, they keep watching us in Europe, and against Celtic, they'll think we're amazing. Ferguson will get a 5-year deal with no money to spend, man. This is a real worry. We need to invite them up to Ross County or one of these games so they can see the real Rangers and the mess that they need to fix. I'm starting to get a bit worried. There's going to be rash decisions when they come in. They get all excited thinking it's Ibrox is like this every game you go to.
That's why they're picking a Thursday, Ricky.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, mate. They're seeing Rangers Thursday nights is different than any other Rangers. I hope they don't get over complacent when they first come in.
David, can I just answer? Alan,
Yep.
He's part of we had question about Waller. Just to say, Alan, he's doing really well. He's on a big long sheet of different medications for different things, one for the cancer. So all we can do is take every day as it comes. But at this moment in time, he's in his cage because he was bad earlier because he went for his brother, as in nearly fighting. He's not done that for a while, so you can see he's getting a wee bit of strength back. But he's doing really well. He's eating, he's drinking, he's taking all his medication, and it's not upsetting him. So we're just taking every day as it comes.
And I'll get you to close off the show, Ker, just in a sec, and we'll talk about some. But Gary, I want to come to you on the last point I wanted to touch on. We took a lot of criticism for UEFA in terms of our fines and our fan behaviour in the last European fixture at home. That Tifo display last night was excellent, and I think the buzz about the stadium prior to everybody entering the stadium last night was fantastic. The club need to learn to work together and find some sort of general consensus and use the Union Bears and that group of supporters for the greater good, don't they, going forward?
No, definitely. I think it's a difficult one. I think that they're probably testing the water a wee bit, because obviously I think the American owners are already there. So there's a little bit of testing the water to see how far they can push back in some of these things, to see where the allegiances lie, and to see maybe where the kind of where the love is lost, because the Union Bears do get a lot of criticism for some of the things they do. The tifos are fantastic. The atmosphere they create is fantastic. But like any group of often many young guys that have a herd mentality, some are a little bit become a little bit silly at times. So I think there's a little bit of posture, I think, between the club and the Union Bears and everybody involved, which will soon ease away. And I'll just go back to some normality. The tifo last night was phenomenal. The atmosphere they created, the march, all the stuff that goes with it was excellent. And that's part of it being in the game. It's not, sometimes none of us want to see some of the silly stuff that happens out with from any of these ultras across the world, not just Rangers fans. But that's part of the whole makeup in it, you know, and you kind of need to live with each other and some of the things that go with it.
No, that's fair comment, Gary. So we're just about rounding up the podcast. So if you want to get your score predictions and first scorer in for Sunday's game, we'll certainly bring them up in the comments. But Kurt, I think I'll pass over to you because you've got something to tell our faithful followers about.
Yeah, just to let everybody know, myself and Davey, Ross, Gary, I think JD might be coming, I'm 100% sure. Ricky can't, because he's in a different continent. We're having a live podcast Friday the 16th of May in Oddswolds. It's £10 a ticket. That gets your raffle ticket to win a signed Steven Gerrard shirt for his first season. We've other prizes as well, and it's all in Ada to help Walter. It's Ross Clark's idea, so thanks to Ross for that. Ross thought it was a good idea. I was quite embarrassed about it, but he said go for it, so that's why we're going for it. But if you come along, you meet myself, David, Gary, I don't know if that's a pleasure or a bad thing, but we can have a laugh, we have a drink, and we can talk about Rangers and take it for there. So if anybody wants any tickets, any more details, just give one of us a nod on social media or contact us on YouTube.
And so say all of us. Now, Ricky, if I've to tell you, or ask you rather, about a scorer and a score prediction for Sunday, what you going for, mate?
2-0 Dessers double.
2-0 Dessers. Gary?
I'm trying to think who's going to be playing. 2-1 Danilo scored the winner.
Oh, I quite like that. And what about yourself, Kerr?
I'm going 2 each. And the goal scorer is going to be Danilo.
Oh, you have to put a dampener on the end of the night, don't you? You always have to bring the negative energy, mate.
I'm not the 10-1 kind of score like you, Davey.
Well, I'm going to go 5-4 Bajrami to get the first, so there you go. 5-4
5-4 for Hubert.
5-4 to Rangers, mate. 5-4 to Rangers. So, gentlemen, I thoroughly enjoyed your company. Thanks very much. And I don't know if any of you are golfers or keen golfers, but if I can get a quick prediction for the Masters winner, does anybody want to give me a winner?
The only one I know is Rory McIlroy or Jordan Spieth. Are they still going? Tiger Woods still there? He's back, isn't he?
Well, I've got Rose myself, so it was looking good earlier on the day.
He was leading. He was leading, wasn't he?
I've watched a wee bit of it, but I'm not a big fan of golf. I watch stuff like this, but I don't really know a lot of golfers, so I like to see Rory win it, but Scottish Schaefer's up. Is he near the top of it and all?
Well, I don't know, mate, because I've not been on the Sky since I've been on the pod, but I'll certainly check it since I tracked.
I don't know. I'll be some golfer will win it, Davey.
McIlroy will not win it, man. His daughter's a better golfer than him now. That was a great putt that she hit when she just hit the ball, and shows you how hard the greens are. That was crazy when she had just touched the ball and it rolled all the way into the hole.
Happy Gilmore it wins it.
Yeah, no, it'll be McIlroy's daughter.
But gentlemen, I thoroughly enjoyed your company this evening. Thanks to everybody in the comments. We'll be back on Monday, I'm sure, with the pod. So it's good night from them, and it's good night from me. Good night.